I'm Andrew. I floor directed Split Screen.
I'm Will Rosch. I'm the CG graphics guy, but I also do some other stuff.
I'm Alex Vo, and I do most of the camera work.
I'm Kyle. I'm new here.
I'm Eric. I eat a lot of food.
Today we're going to talk about some video games. So, my topic I wanted to talk to you guys about was the new God of War game coming out. It's coming out April 20th. What are you guys' opinions on it?
Well, I guess as someone that hasn't really played the series, I can just look at the trailer and be like, wow, it's stunning. Honestly, the graphics are amazing. The gameplay looks about the same as the others, but I don't know if that's necessarily a bad thing. I don't know what you guys think about that, but
as someone who's actually played the game, I think that it does look about the same in terms of gameplay, but I think that's fine because for the series, it's kind of representative of what you'd expect. So it's basically an action, fighting kind of game, and really the only thing that's changed is the story and the graphics itself. You guys.
Well, the thing is, even if it's just a graphical upgrade of the other games, that just means it's better because it's a new story. It's probably Norse gods. Am I right on that?
Yeah.
But either way, it's a good way of developing the series further.
So I just looked at the trailer. You obviously have Kratos, and you have this new character, which is his son. And I'm not exactly sure, you guys might know more about this than me, how he necessarily fits into the gameplay and the story at all. Because, from the perception I got of Kratos in the first games, he doesn't really seem like the family man kind of type of guy. So, I don't know. So, what do you guys think?
From the trailer, it definitely looks like he's kind of the tough father figure. I'm really excited for it just from the narrative and the action from it. It just looks absolutely stunning, and also from the trailer, the huge snake that came up. I'm really excited to see more of that and more of kind of what they go into with all these Norse gods and the new mythology, because it's been Greek for 3 games.
Yeah.
So I'm really excited because they have all these new things that they can work with that we haven't seen before. It's totally new and all that stuff. So.
See, I personally haven't played any of the games, nor really have I watched the trailers. I just kind of have seen a few of the older trailers for the old games, and I'm not gonna lie, the thing that pops into my head is the Zelda games I used to play with the giant bosses, and you're the size of one toe. That's what it makes me think of, honestly. I'm not gonna lie, just from seeing it. Yeah,
the scale in the games is super impressive. It's got there's a lot of games that kind of play off that scale. A lot of the Zeldas kind of do that. Shadow of Colossus is another famous one that has the scale emphasized pretty heavily, and it really makes each fight feel epic boss battles. You're not fighting someone that's your equal, in theory. You're fighting someone that's more powerful, more stronger, that's just entirely bigger and stronger than you are. So, at least from a game, any game perspective, really, that's a super cool feature for most of them to have, in a sort of action adventure setting.
Well, I have another take on that, whereas in some games like Dark Souls, for example, sometimes the bigger enemies try to stand out more, but what really you notice is the enemies who are the same size as you. And you all the way... my bad. You have this notion that this is different. This is something new. And you're always a little suspicious when you're going into that.
Yeah, I know what you mean, because there's all these huge bosses, right? That you're oh man, this guy's tough, this guy's tough. And then you get to a boss that's your size, and you're wait a minute, this looks easy. And then you get your butt kicked by him, right?
Yeah.
That's what you're talking about? With the old Greek gods, they were all pretty much your size. Now I'm curious if they have any bosses that are going to be your size in the new game. And then also, it doesn't look like he has his old weapons. He has just a normal axe this time. So I'm curious how they're going to change the gameplay to fit him possibly losing all those weapons and abilities that he gained from the Greeks. So.
Would you guys be opposed to the future games going into different lores, such as the ancient Egyptian gods or then the ancient Japanese and Chinese mythology? Are you guys opposed to that at all?
I think it's a good idea. I think I like the direction where they're going. They've done the Greek gods for 3
Yeah.
plus games.
Did they do the Romans or only the Greeks? Because they're very similar,
I
but
think
still
it's
kind of
I
different.
think it's Greek and Roman mix. I think.
They're go by their Greek names. Greco-Roman
Okay.
mythology. I mean, I could talk a long time about that.
I mean, same here,
But, like,
honestly. But
They kind of overlap a lot in a lot of places. In some places they're the same. Some places they have slight differences, but they go by Greek names, and it's I mean, from like memory, it's a pretty Greek kind of game. I wouldn't say it's very Roman. With sort of the
Okay.
architecture and yeah.
As long as they keep the narrative that's like and deliver a narrative that is like what the fan base feels the game deserves, I'm totally like fine if they go into like Egyptian gods. That'd be really cool to see, like Isis or any of the other gods, instead of just saying like, oh, it's Aphrodite, oh, it's Zeus, and like you could also learn just a lot about other gods and cultures just if they did that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So like.
It's got that kind of same potential that like Assassin's Creed has with its kind of games, where it's like you can present the same narrative but in various global settings, which impact the narrative differently.
Because, like, I feel like it's the style of game, not so much following Kratos itself, that would be important to the God of War name, in my opinion. Just, like, with most games, it's kind of like, oh, it's this style of game. It might not be, like, the same topic. Like, there's, like, the thing that they say Link is actually a, like, title given to someone rather than one dude who's gone through, like, 20 games.
Yeah. So, like wrapping up, what do you guys, like, overall opinions? Excited, not excited? For me, I'm pretty excited for it. It looks amazing, in my opinion.
I guess I'm like pretty neutral about the whole thing. Like, I don't own a PS4. The game doesn't make me want to get a PS4. I'm pretty satisfied with the games I play currently. So, I mean, excited to see, I guess, other people play it, if that makes sense. I do want to watch the game. I do want to look at it. So.
Yeah, I was gonna say the same thing. I don't have a PS4. It doesn't make me want to buy one, but yeah, I mean, it already looks good enough, and like I've played the previous games before, so I'm kind of familiar with them. I'm kind of excited to see where it goes with this, especially with like this story that's gonna like develop, I guess, Kratos as a character.
Yeah.
Well, as for me, I'm kind of in that same boat. I don't own a PS4, and I don't plan on getting one. But later on down the line, maybe 10 years from now, I could remember this as like, this was a good game. Maybe I could go back and play it again.
Personally, I already have a PS4 Pro and an Xbox One S. And so if it's in my budget, I will probably be getting this game along with a few others. I mean, it sounds fun, so.
I play League of Legends, and I hate myself for it, but, you know, it's what I am at this point. You can't change yourself. So anyway, I play this game, and one harsh criticism it's always received, besides the toxic community, is art design for its characters. In particular, it's known for having very sexy women, and a lot of the community is very adamant that it wants more sexy women in their games. I am not either here nor there about it. I'm just, you know, and I think in general it's an important kind of conversational piece to bring up in gaming as total, because a lot of, obviously, like, League of Legends knows their demographic to some extent, which is because of the toxic community, usually men between the age of, like, 18 to 20s-ish, give or take. So they know that they try to design characters for that demographic. To be fair, they do also design characters for, you know, like, they do design sexy men. Like, I'm not going to lie, Garen Rugged is pretty attractive. I'm pretty down with that.
Why'd you point at me?
Because I think you're a handsome dude, you know? So, like, I just...
thanks.
You could pull off the cosplay the best.
You mean
mean-
the clogs?
So I guess to get back on subject, like, gaming in general I know is a fairly male-dominated sort of thing, and a lot of, male-dominated sort of industry, and a lot of kind of games are directed in that way, and I kind of want to know what's your opinion on, like, does having a, you know, and playing a game where you're a character, if you see a sexy woman, does that feel like that affects your kind of gameplay, or is, like, any sort of thing about the game, or is in general, do you think, like, sex and the game industry are kind of linked coherently in that sense?
I think people just want, like, if it's a male dominant, I think they just want to see, like, something. It's almost like eye candy. Like, they want to look at something nice. Like, for example, like, if you, like, we can take, like, Overwatch, like, you see all the character models, all the females, or, yeah, like, are, like, attractive, and, like, something that's oddly of a focus is, like, their butts. Like, that's something. I don't know why. I didn't
Put
design
mine on all of them. Like, no one will ever know.
Yeah, yeah, but yeah, it's something of a, Yeah, but it's something of like a focus that people just want to see. Like they don't want to see something ugly. They want to see something pretty and attractive. And because this is a virtual world, they kind of want to change it in a way that will benefit themselves.
So I think I saw a video about Riot discussing that with kind of their evolution as a company and with the game. And they did notice that trend of having very kind of pristine, very kind of like run-of-the-mill like archetypes of characters. And so they wanted to expand it. So like I play League of Legends as well, and there's a champion called Rek'Sai. And she's a female like void monster thing. She's not even human. And like I think she's one of the few females in the game that doesn't have that. Even like a human body, but like, you know, a lot of them are idealized. And there's also like a lot of idealized men in it too. So I think they tried to stray away from that for a bit, and they came out with like a whole bunch of new champions, like with the Yordles and stuff. They're like the kind of little cute furry thingies, and they're not even human. So I think they can make good design without resorting to sexy women or super muscled men or stuff like that.
So like, you know, there's like that vine of the guy who has a giant clock and he's like, "It's time to stop," and points at it.
Yeah.
That's kind of how I feel about this. Like, you don't play a video game to get turned on. You play it for the game, and having to resort to just adding eye candy for guys is kind of bull in that sense. It's like, there's like the comparison of like a level 100 armor for a guy, big giant shoulder pads, like the dragon bone armor in Skyrim. Like for the girls, like it covers like half their body. It's like that doesn't make sense. It's not even logical to the game. And so it's like it really just kind of needs to stop, and I think fit the theme of the game instead of being a logical source just to entertain guys. Because there is a decent part of the community, especially for League, I know, that is girls. Like I think more people that play League out of my friends group is actually girls playing it. Where guys would rather do different games. And it's like some games are really good about that, making them match. Like you don't see half-dressed girls in Call of Duty. They have just the same exosuit in like Black Ops 3. Yeah. And some games are good at that, but like there's no point to it. It's completely illogical. Unless the whole point of the character is like, oh, I'm really hot and you can't touch me because of that, kind of like Boa Hancock in One Piece. Yeah. Where like her one ability is is so attractive she turns men to stone. Yeah. So.
Well, I think if I'm playing a game like League, for example, I don't really want to. As you said, you don't play video games to get turned on. You play them for something else. Like
if you do, that's kind of different. That's like the way you do you.
Yeah, we don't judge. Don't judge.
Well, as with League, I care more about the mechanics of a character and how they work and feel, rather than whether they look good or not.
Yeah. I guess as a counterpoint, you know, I'm just to bring up the other side. Some of if you look at statistically the most popular champions in League of Legends, you're gonna get Ahri, you're gonna get like Misfortune, you're gonna get Jinx, you're gonna get a lot of women that kind of fit the kind of general archetype. And if you look at the least popular hand, on the other hand, you're gonna get Skarner, who's like a scorpion thing.
Do people generally think though that's only just because of how they look though?
I think part of it is, and I think this is the quickest thing, is if you're loading into the game and you have X amount of characters, who are you going to identify with? This monster
but it's like
thing,
you
or
pick
this
a character
other
off
human?
of like what you like and like what you play. It's not like that person looks hot, click. It's like
not,
that's not what it is. It's like, I mean, maybe at the very beginning, yeah, but like for someone who's actually been in it and is into the game, that's not what they're gonna pick.
I mean, as you said, like you said, statistically speaking, that's what people are picking. Like it could be based on like their looks or something.
Yeah,
but
I think a lot of it is in a game, as I can kind of to wrap things up here. In a game where you're so character-based that most people pick like three or two, maybe, characters at most to play, they tend to stick with the ones they start with. And I think a lot of that, you know, is then you got to go to the kind of idea back of which one do you immediately identify with. And I think mechanics do play a part, and I think that's why there is other champions that don't necessarily fit into this archetype that are very popular. Garen being a good example, because one, he's pretty basic, and two, you know, it's pretty easy to win lanes. But I guess to finally just put it down, I'm okay with it, but I kind of also understand the fact that things need to change, and I think things will change, and I think that's for the better. But like, it's kind of in a state where it needs change, I guess.
I'm kind of like, I can see it being bad, but it doesn't affect who I choose when I play. I like to play fun people. So like, yeah, there's attractive people. I like, you know, it's fine that they're in the game. I might not necessarily play them. So that's just kind of my take.
I think like it doesn't really matter. Like you play attractive characters, whatever. Like personally, I play based on like, well, for example, for a game in the games where you can choose whichever characters you want to play, I play based on their kits. Yeah.
What about you? What do you think?
As I said, I choose stuff based on how they feel mechanically, not how they look.
All right. You got any?
We need to be realistic and cover up their bodies if they need it. It's like let's do it right.
Yeah.
Hey, so today I thought I'd talk to you guys a topic about like the Battlefront 2 loot boxes, but specifically something that EA's new chief engineer said. I actually have a quote that I wanted to read out. So EA's new chief designer, Patrick, if I'm hoping I'm saying this right, Soderlund, but he specifically said this: "We have taken significant steps as a company to review and understand the mechanics around monetization, loot boxes, and other things in our games before they go to market. For games that come next, for Battlefield or for Anthem, which is their upcoming open world shooter, they have made it very clear that we can't afford to make similar mistakes, and we won't." So what I'm personally interpreting from this is that they're going to try and revamp or change the way loot boxes are done, but I'm not really sure. I just wanted to hear you guys' opinions on like how the loot boxes might work in the future. Or
I mean, after the microtransaction mistake with Battlefront 2,
Yeah.
who knows?
So they
Surprised
can't
even doing loot boxes.
They can't just make a good game.
Yeah.
They got worst company of the year, right?
Yeah, I think they won that one.
It takes a lot. It takes a lot to have the most downvoted Reddit comment in history, and then also have the second one right below it. So I think generally it's like, you know, the strategy they did for Battlefield kind of to a lesser, I mean, to more extent, kind of really broke the game. Like it really, from a perspective of like someone who has attempted to play the game, it really is not fun with the current system in place. It just feels like people have things you don't, and you have no obtainable way to get them.
It's like Overwatch has a pretty solid loot crate system, just because of how it's like, okay, you can get every character, it's just now you can customize them with like what you do, and you get more customizations, and like as you get experience, you can get better customizations.
Yeah, I was gonna say like a good loot box is like something that only gives you like cosmetics or anything that's not game changing. Whereas you know, in a game like Battlefront 2, they gave you characters that have like abilities that would destroy you if you don't.
And then like Call of Duty, what they did in World War II with their loot box system, it's like they had like a little bit of both kind of, but it was kind of like they made it trying to make it such like a focus of multiplayer. Like, oh, you have to go to this main hub, and then you get an extra award if you open it in front of 3 people, because that's the daily challenge,
like,
and stuff like that.
How often did you get? I mean, how often would you get loot boxes in Call of Duty? Because I know.
I mean, I legit played 5 online games and said I'm tired of these 8-year-olds screaming about how they did my parents.
Wait, in those 5 games, how many did you?
I don't know. I think I had several to start because I had like some DLC, but not many. I mean, those some.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I mean, I don't think a game should, you know, hand them out like, oh, you finished a round. Here's, you know, 5 rounds in a, you know, it shouldn't hand them out to you. You got to earn them to some extent. So I kind of understand that, but at the same time, like, in games, especially like in Battlefield, where there needs to be like some progression beyond just here is your XP, whatever. Loot boxes can be a kind of natural way of progression if you hand them out in appropriate times. Like, oh boy, I've played enough to earn another loot box. I can't wait to get to the next one, right? That's kind of what Overwatch does with its leveling system, because every level you get a new one.
But that isn't really the reward, though. It's not like, yeah, I leveled up and got a loot box, like with Forza Horizon 3. It's like, yeah, you level up and you get to spin the wheel, and you could get a new car. It's more like the focus is the level up, not the reward for it.
Yeah.
So it's more like you can be like, ha, I'm level 25, or whatever the actual level is, and your friend is like level 2 because they're brand new.
Yeah, but the leveling up and like the reward is just like a nice extra to it. Like you got something for your effort.
It gives a tangible feeling to that.
Yeah.
Kind of, rather than just bragging rights.
I think Overwatch does the loot box system a lot better than
most games.
Yeah, than what EA was doing, because not only they only offer cosmetic stuff, Like that's very important as well, because then you can't get an advantage over other players just by chance. Like you get Darth Vader from a Battlefield loot box or something. You can't do that in Overwatch. And then also with the leveling progression, you also get rewarded by like a cool new barrier, like border around your player or whatever that like levels up with you. So like that's another good way to reward progression. Is you're like, whoa, that person's really high level, and look at the border around them. Like they're like they've played this game a long time, so you can kind of like feel really good beating them if you beat them in the game or something.
Like in a way, I think it kind of makes sense to like have some players to be unlocked with the game, and it really depends on the game. I'm not sure if Battlefront is one of those types, but it shouldn't be something where it's like an insanely high amount. It should be like, oh, I can grind for a day and unlock this character, kind of like with Skyrim. Like, oh, I can just go and grind out some challenges and get like this legendary sword within like a day of work, versus they had calculated like 80 hours of in-game play to get Darth Vader earlier.
And just being able to buy power isn't really what you want from a game, especially like, because that's what EA was essentially allowing you to do, is buy the good people. So you need like a variety of power within like the starting lineup if you need that.
And the thing is, like, what I think the issue with this game, Battlefield, is you're always going to have to live up to what everyone loved about Battlefront and Battlefront 2. In that those games were non-necessary, like, they wouldn't work in today's multiplayer climate because there's no progression. You just play game after game for the sake of fun. But, like, there's also things about it that people loved in that sense that you could really just get into a game and just do whatever you want. They were massive games. Like, you could play any hero if it was semi-random in certain selection modes as well as, so anyone could really play it, and there was no way to actively, like, limit players from doing what they want to do. Like, you could be Darth Vader, you can be, Luke Skywalker, you could be whatever you want.
Yeah. So, like, for me, like, the loot box system overall, yay or nay? Yay if it's only cosmetics. I don't think you should be able to buy power. What do you guys think?
I tend to be pretty okay with it. I think, honestly, like, everyone's going to do it. It's just a way to make money. So I don't see a need to challenge the system.
Yeah, I think that's fine. Like, even if you have to pay for loot boxes, like, as long as there's stuff like cosmetics or sprays or banners, like, that's totally fine. Although in Battlefront 2's case now, they already removed I don't think they removed loot boxes, but I think they made it so all the characters are available now. Yeah. So you can play all the characters you want, which is nice, but they should have done that from the beginning.
I'm in a little bit of a different camp where I feel like if you bought the game for full price, you shouldn't have to pay more for extra stuff. You should have to work for it, but that's just me.
I think you can do a slight pay-to-help system, but it shouldn't be like I can pump in another $50 and get every character. More like if I grind out, I can get a character, and no character should be way too much. So it's just hard to do that, and I do not know of a game that has done that well.
So Terraria... Well, the devs for Terraria were making another game in the form of Terraria Otherworld, which is kind of a spin-off, but they announced very recently that they canceled the spin-off.
Oh. So, like, what's Otherworld? Was it going to be, like, sci-fi? Was it going to be... Can you tell us any more about it?
From what I know, it's more or less the same game, except it follows a little bit of a story path where the world is corrupted and you have to clean it instead of just, here's the world.
So I guess that it's base level resist because I've played it, but like a long time ago and for not very long. What exactly is Terraria?
It's the most simple definition is a 2D Minecraft, but it's also very different from Minecraft, in which a lot happens in deeper aspects. Like, it has a more in-depth crafting system and more boss fights and stuff like that.
Okay, so I'm getting the vibe that it's a little hard to differentiate the two, which is totally fine. Like, things copying each other is just a natural sort of thing of media, and I totally understand that.
Media, like, feeds off of each other, like, they inspire each other. Like, Star Wars was innovative with their technology, now it's got gone into other movies, even outside of sci-fi. And it's not necessarily copying. Having, like, a crafting system isn't exactly new. Minecraft is probably just most known for it.
Yeah. I don't think it's a copy of Minecraft. It definitely came out around the time. But it's when you play the games, they're completely different. And the crafting system, you don't create the shape of the object to craft it. You just have the materials. and then you can learn to build stuff and stuff like that. But with the other world, again, like what I said with narrative, I think I love narrative as long as it's done well. But I think I might actually have a bit of a different opinion with this one because I think it already kind of told its story, like without using words, just like Dark Souls that you mentioned earlier. Dark Souls has a weird way of storytelling, and I think Terraria did that in its own way, because you can see the corruption spreading, and you can choose to save it and like harvest it, and you're almost like going through these bosses to get stronger and to build up your house so that you can survive. It's kind of like the Minecraft, again, where you're dropped off and you survive and then you thrive. Yeah. That's the story.
Well, the deal with Terraria Otherworld is it was canceled, which means we're never going to get to see the narrative experience of that. But from what I know, they canceled it because they didn't want to make a quick buck. They wanted to make a quality product for the gamers who are going to play it. I think that's good because, in a sense, it shows that they care about consumers and aren't just out there for money.
That's something I can, like, I super agree with. As someone that day one pre-ordered Unity, Assassin's Creed Unity, I can definitely get down with games being completely playable. And, oh, God, yeah, no, that's... Trust me, like, it's never been more disappointed to be like, man, I got home, I waited all night, I'm ready to play this game, you launch it in, you're ready, okay, there's a patch, well, that's kind of weird, whatever. You then get into the game, and then it's like, wait a minute, nothing's working, and I can't play this. So, I could definitely...
It's not a bug, it's a feature.
Yeah. Amen. It's not a bug, it's a feature. And I get it. And it's like, whatever, you know, you have timetables and video game making, and you need to meet them. But, like, I'm really appreciative. I mean, I know it's sad, and I feel really bad the game isn't coming out. But I really appreciate the devs taking the mature kind of approach to it and being like, you know, we can make a game, and everyone will hate it, or we can just... you know, put these ideas maybe into the product we already have. Because, I mean, to me at least, I think the game seems like something that doesn't really expire. Like, you can play Terraria as long as you have a desire to, you know? So, I mean, I don't know, you guys can elaborate further on that if you want.
But then, like, with Terraria Otherworld, like, this is supposed to be, like, if I'm correct, right, it's a completely separate game. It's not, like, just expansion pack?
Yeah, it's a separate game in roughly the same style of... it's 2D Minecraft, but there's more stuff.
So what is supposed to be different? Because, I mean, like, for example, like with DLC, it's like you're basically adding on to the base game. But with a completely separate game, everything should be changed. There should be a lot of differences. But yeah. If it's just like a spin-off of it, like what is supposed to be...
Well, the spin-off comes into play, whereas in Terraria, it's a normal world and you're doing whatever you want. This game has kind of the essence of... here is your task. You are to clean this world of what is bad. And there's a whole lot of new stuff, like new items that aren't in the normal game, and a whole bunch of new processes that we don't even know about because it wasn't released.
I think that's kind of funny that you mentioned the new game has to be totally new, and then you look at stuff like Assassin's Creed and Call of Duty.
Call of Duty!
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, it's the same game, but they changed a few things, and then they make a lot of money.
I don't like that. I mean, they still do and they still make a lot of money, but it doesn't mean that it's good.
I'm so polar about this, because, like, I get the argument that making the same game over and over and slightly changing things is, like, bad. But I'm also one of the people that have bought into that for seemingly all their life, and I'm just kind of accepted of it.
Okay, but, like, why do they just have to cancel the game and say, oh, we're just going to spend, like, another year on it? I don't get that. Because then, like, if they're already, like, halfway done with it or something, just like, yeah, guys, we'll just, like, gonna take, like, a bit longer and then get it done.
And also with, like, crowdfunding and pre-releases are really popular, you can buy the game beforehand, and then they can improve it. That can be a huge problem, but it can also be beneficial, because they can get consumer feedback right off the bat. So,
yeah. Do we have any other final comments before we're done?
Well, I guess from my perspective, it's disappointing. I hate to see games fail, regardless if I'm ever going to play them or not. It's the cruel mistress that is the game development industry, so to speak. So,
I mean, I don't really... This isn't a game I really know incredibly well. I didn't really play a lot of it, or as much as maybe some of you guys did. So I'm kind of neutral about this when it comes to like it being canceled. I mean, it sucks. Maybe it could have been good, or maybe it would have been bad, but I don't think it's really something that shouldn't be too much of a bother, because you still can play Terraria and it still has enough content that you can consume, even if it's like repetitive to some people, like if you've played it long enough.
Well, I just think, in my opinion, that it's good that they're not releasing a half-baked product. And that's all I have to say.
Yeah, I agree with that, but like, I'm also kind of sad for the fans who were waiting for it and were really excited to hear that it was canceled, because you know that's a franchise that they care about, and they might not be getting more of it.
So what I wanted to discuss was kind of the bot programming throughout time, and how I used to play Unreal Tournament 2004 with my dad a lot. That, in my opinion, along with PCGamer.com, view the Unreal Tournament 2004 as having one of the best AI-controlled systems like ever for a video game. And it's like the fact that the bots are extremely realistic. They act like either a novice if you have that difficulty, or you can put them up to like an unbeatable god. And it feels like you're playing against real humans without the 8-year-old screaming into the mic. But nowadays, though, if you go and play like Call of Duty or something, the bots are horrendous at that. If you put it to like the easy level, they just like run from one end of the map to the other, and half the time they'll just like run right by you and not do anything about it. And so I was kind of wondering like what your opinions on that is, with the bots changing, and like why.
Well, I mean, you mentioned like Unreal Tournament, like there's an easy and then the hardest difficulty, and that you can see the scales of difficulty in between. But like with Call of Duty, like how does the AI operate on the hardest difficulty? Because you saw in easy mode, they're like basically nothing. But how do they work on the hardest?
But like it's not like real though. Like you can't get the same feeling. Like the focus of Unreal Tournament is against the bots, versus now all the games that are like online, or that's the point of it, and it's as if they don't try to give the bots a realistic, tangible feeling.
Yeah, so like I remember, I think the last time I did bots was like in Black Ops or something, and when you put it on the hardest mode, it wouldn't even be human. It'd just shoot you through walls. It'd wait.
Yeah,
it'd look
it's
at you,
aimbot.
You'd look at you through walls, and then you'd come around the corner, and then you'd just die instantly.
It's like, really, it's the lazy way to kind of get artificial scaling on like difficulty levels, because the computer really can, or the bots, in theory, can know everything about the game itself. Like they can know where your positions are, they can know where pickups are, they can know where, like where you are moving, where you are aiming. So really, they, in like a game where, especially Call of Duty, which is so multiplayer focused, as it kind of needs to be in today's market, to be fair. But like, for their bots, why spend money on programming intelligent AI, and when you can have fish technology and things like that, when you can just have like better multiplayer, or well, quote unquote better multiplayer, depends on who you ask. But when you can just do like, oh yeah, the bot knows everything that where you are, just plainly.
But like they had the technology in this 2004 released game to make a near perfect bot system, and yet nowadays like games as if they don't even try. Like this technology is like 14 years old. Like they could easily put that in though. And then there's some games where like they would do great with the bots as is. Like what is it, Overwatch? Like I don't really go online very much just because I'm really bad at it. But I can go play against those bots, and it's like I can kind of feel that in a way. Like the strategizing in that is terrible. They all come in like herds. Yeah. So then you like activate ultimate and wipe out the whole team. Yeah. But it's like this technology is really old, and they could easily put that in.
Well, to be fair with Overwatch, most public games do end up as a herd just running forward anyway. But I would say generally it's like, with Overwatch, the big difference between Overwatch and Call of Duty and why the bots might be different is that Overwatch doesn't have to worry about a single-player campaign. They just kind of scrap that whole thing. It's not there. And therefore they can allocate, or like, that's not the word, Jesus, put more of their money into developing more intelligent AI, considering that they have only really 2 modes. Well, overbranching 2 modes in a PvP multiplayer and a bot multiplayer. Of course, those can be further broken down into more specific game modes like brawls and that kind of stuff. And whereas like COD, you have basic, I mean, even though the COD campaign has been progressively getting worse, I'm sure, you know, most people would know, like admit that. Like, there's still money going to it, and so therefore you now have 3 avenues where money needs to go as opposed to 2.
I think it's just a bit, you know, it'd be a bit lazy from Call of Duty, because when the argument for this is multiplayer focused, be that they're going to spend less money on bots. So you look at Overwatch, which is heavily, online driven.
It's
And-
almost purely online.
Yeah, but then they have online game modes where it's co-op against bots, and the bots can be really tough,
Yeah.
and they have wave modes and stuff like that, and they can hit you really consistently, and they have different difficulties for that too, and it's very believable that, oh no, this is a robot or something coming to kill me, and then in Call of Duty you're going for I don't know, a humanistic feel. But it's so easy that you lose the immersion, I feel, is kind of the underlying problem with that.
I do kind of understand the co-op versus bot kind of argument. To be fair, Overwatch's newest mode that just revealed is co-op versus bot.
Yeah.
And it's a pretty large-scale thing. And I think that is kind of the natural progression for, bot game, or, I guess, you versus bot games, because you get the elements of, the multiplayer game. You have other humans in the game, but they're also cooperating with you. And in theory, should it be complete and total bad people and say rude things about you and your mother? So it should be, in general, a better experience. And I think that's kind of where more of the money is going into than purely just bot games.
Well, something interesting might be happening in terms of Call of Duty, where they're also, as you said, they're investing in single-player, multiplayer, and then the bots is somewhere in between. I just got the idea of what if this whole time they've been taking the AI from the campaign and making it bots just to put in as a feature for multiplayer.
That seems unfortunately believable with how bad... Because in the campaign, there's moments where you're just standing next to one of your friends and he's just shooting into a wall and you're kind of just watching him. I don't know if you've ever done
Jimmy,
this.
you need to stop this.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, I wasn't paying
I don't know if you've ever done this, but if you just go into one of those FPSs that are kind of very multiplayer based and just go in the campaign and just watch what your allies do, and it's just it's not it's odd but strangely fascinating to see how the AI is programmed.
Yeah. So what are you guys' finishing thoughts on this? I think some games do AI really well, and other games don't. Games that do it well, Overwatch, Unreal Tournament. Games that do it poorly, Call of Duty, because it loses immersion.
And then Call of Duty, Call of Duty, Call of Duty,
Yeah.
Call of Duty, Call of Duty, Call of Duty, Call of Duty.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, I guess my closing thought on the whole thing is it's just it's kind of it's the way games are going, is that if you look at the most viewed games on Twitch, not most of them are going to be PvP games, if not all of them, outside of the really big streamers who can just play whatever they want to play and get 40,000 people to watch them.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I think the way of designing AI for other people to go against is just slowly fading out of games today.
I mean, I was gonna, I guess for final thought, I don't think it really matters with bots, since the whole point of multiplayer is that you're playing with real people online. So, I mean, in this case, you could play with bots, but that's really reaching to almost a niche audience. Most people are playing online against other people. Most people are definitely not just sitting at home just playing against bots that you don't really talk to or interact with.
I think it's bull. I want to be able to play a first-person shooter without an 8-year-old yelling at me about how he did my parents. I hate it.
I think it's fine, but
It's annoying. It's I just want to go and play Call of Duty for 5 minutes and have a real feeling to it without being yelled at. Because you can't leave a game halfway through, then all sorts of bad stuff can happen, especially with League of Legends or World of Warcraft and stuff like that.
Yeah.
If you want to see our full discussions, check us out at KBVR on YouTube and follow us on our social medias at OSU Split Screen. Thank you.